95, I believe it's 95%, the overwhelming majority of land animals that are bred and enslaved and slaughtered and dismembered in this country and around the world are chickens. Well over 90%. And they are also exempt, as it happens, from the Humane Slaughter Act of 1978, which means that the overwhelming majority of land animals that are bred, slaughtered, and dismembered and eaten in this country and around the world have no protection under federal law at all. And that is appalling. It's absolutely appalling. And our next speaker has done a lot about this. This is the cause that she didn't quite invent necessarily, but it's certainly one that she helped put on the map. She's going to be very familiar to a lot of you. Her name is Karen Davis. She's the founder and president of United Poultry Concerns, celebrating 25 years of promoting the compassionate and respectful treatment of chickens, turkeys, ducks. Yes, a round of applause for United Poultry Concerns. Absolutely, absolutely. A true pillar of this movement and of this community. And she's the author of several amazing books, including Prisoned Chickens, Poisoned Eggs, More Than a Meal, The Holocaust, and The Handmaid's Tale, A Home for Henny, and Instead of a Chicken, Instead of a Turkey, a best-selling vegan cookbook. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Dr. Karen Davis of United Poultry Concerns.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes. Okay. First of all, I want to tell you how wonderful it is to see so many people here today for the Veggie Pride Parade. And I'm happy to tell you that I have not missed a single Veggie Pride Parade since it started 8 years ago. This is my 8th year of being a proud contributor to this wonderful parade and the rally that follows it, sticking up for chickens, sticking up for farmed animals, promoting veganism, and a better world for all. So I will tell you a few things about how I got involved on behalf of chickens, because people still ask me, how did you decide to start an organization that would focus attention on the plight of chickens? Well, as I said, 25 years ago, in 1990, I formally incorporated United Poultry Concerns as a national nonprofit organization. In the 1980s, I was reading about the plight of farmed animals and learning, as was just said, that at least 95% of all animals exploited on this planet are farmed animals. And of that 95%, about 98% are birds. And of those birds, about 99% are chickens. So when we hear it said that in this country alone, 9 out of 10 animals being slaughtered for food are chickens, 9 billion out of 10 billion animals, roughly speaking, we realize that there has to be an organization and a movement that focuses upon the plight of chickens, because the numbers are so incomprehensibly huge. And when we talk about the entire world, well, we're just talking about so many 70 billion out of 125. The point is, the numbers just exceed anything we can really grasp. Back in the late 1980s, when I started talking to a few animal rights activists about my intention to start an organization that would focus on chickens and turkeys, some people were very supportive of my decision. Other people in the animal rights movement were discouraging. They said, well, we can't even get people to care about whales. How do you expect we're ever going to get people to care about chickens? And my response then, in around 1998, 1999, was, as animal advocates, our job is to be advocates. And as advocates, we never take the position or assume the attitude that no one will ever care about animals or about a particular group of animals. Our job is to tap into those parts of people, those feelings that I believe most people really have, and help them to learn to care, to learn to feel that it's okay to care about a chicken. And one of the first things I discovered when I started United Poultry Concerns in 1990 was how many people do care about chickens. One of the very first things I did in my new job as president of United Poultry Concerns was to send out a request through various animal organizations for people to send me stories about their chickens. I don't mean Frank Perdue. I mean people who cared. People who had chickens as companions, people who loved chickens. And it was so wonderful how many responses I received from people all over the country telling me their stories about their love for their chickens, their grandmother's love for her chickens, and just beautiful stories about their chickens. And that leads me to another story, which some of you may be familiar with. It's the story of Ira Glass of This American Life. How many know Ira Glass of This American Life? You gotta know Ira Glass, PBS. Well, back in the mid-1990s, Ira Glass had an annual Poultry Slam. How many people ever heard of the Poultry Slam? Anybody? Okay, well, what the Poultry Slam was, it was always put on between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And Ira Glass, in all of his shows, he has a variety of voices talking about a particular theme on that particular show. So what the Poultry Slam was these various voices, usually from a farming background, making fun of chickens, turkeys, and ducks. And, you know, talking about how they were stupid and just mean-spirited stories. So when I learned about the Ira Glass's annual Poultry Slam, I think it was from Mary Finelli, who's going to speak this afternoon, who just started an organization called Fish Feel. I think it was Mary who told me about the Poultry Slam, right? So back in that time, you know, I ordered some VHSs to listen to the Poultry Slam, and I said, yeah, this is horrible. So I told our members to send their stories and their pictures of their beloved chickens and turkeys and ducks to Ira Glass in This American Life, and to talk about how intelligent and how emotional and how friendly their chickens are, and how sweet they are, and how they don't deserve to be trashed on This American Life or anywhere else. So people started sending Ira Glass their photographs of their beloved birds with stories about their chickens and their turkeys. And the next thing you know, I get a call from Ira Glass's producer, who invited me to be on the show as the sort of alternative voice to all the others. In other words, I'd be surrounded by all these mean-spirited voices, and then I would be the one who would be the champion for chickens and turkeys. So I said, I will consider being on the show on the condition that Ira Glass agrees, first of all, to visit our sanctuary for chickens and meet our birds and get to see who they really are, who these birds are who are being trashed by all these negative voices on his show. So Ira Glass took up the challenge. He agreed to come, and one day he knocked on our front door in Machipongo, Virginia, on the eastern shore of Virginia, where we're located, parenthetically, in one of the largest chicken-producing parts of the country, known as the Delmarva Peninsula. So Ira Glass knocked on the door, and he met our chickens. And he walked around in the chicken yard, and he got to see them, and he got to see how sweet they are, and they're out there taking their sun baths and their dust baths, and they're running around in little groups, and they're perching on tree branches, and they're just so innocent. The hens and the roosters, all of whom were rescued, of course, from terrible backgrounds. And then we talked for several hours about the chickens and about our campaign and about why we opposed the Poultry Slam and why it was a mean show that should be canceled. So Ira was very nice. He was very cordial, very friendly, very receptive. But when he left at the end of that Saturday afternoon, I had no idea where that was going to go. I did appear on a show, and about maybe 8 or 9 months later, I get an email from somebody who says, you know, Ira Glass was on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me last night or yesterday afternoon on NPR, and Ira Glass said on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, hey, you know, I recently met this woman who is a champion for chickens, and she is opposed to the Poultry Slam that I put on every year. And she told me to come down and actually meet her chickens and compare how they really act and are with how these farm people are saying they are, denigrating them and demeaning them. He said, so I went down and I met her chickens. And he said, he was very moved by meeting our chickens, and that they had an effect upon him emotionally. And he ended up telling everybody on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR that as a result of meeting our chickens, Ira Glass became a vegetarian. Well, about a year or two later, Ira Glass appeared on the David Letterman nightly night show. And there he sat in a chair next to opposite David Letterman, and he started telling that story about how he had used to have the annual Poultry Slam every fall between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and how this group, this person named Karen Davis, who had this chicken group, started having people send in all these letters and these pictures of chickens. And he said, I thought at the time, geez, what a terrible activist she is, because the chicken industry is just an Armageddon, and how does she expect that anybody's ever going to change how people view chickens? So he says, anyway, he said to David Letterman, and everybody in the audience is laughing, so ha ha ha, you know. So then the movement of the interview starts to move in a more serious direction. So he said, well, she said to me, if I'm going to appear on your show, you have to come down to Virginia and meet our chickens. So he says, so I went down there, and he said, and I met her chickens, and he said, and some of them were shy, and some of them were outgoing, and all of that. And by that time, everybody in the audience is real quiet. And then David Letterman said, well, and so did that change you? Did you become a vegetarian? And Ira Glass said, yes, I did. And like the audience is like, oh, so this is serious. It's not a joke. And it was just a wonderful show. It was wonderful of Ira Glass to speak out that way. And one of the reasons that I like this story about Ira Glass is that it reminds us that when we are true activists, when we have our knowledge, we have our passion, we have our dedication, and we are out here advocating for animals, people might take our literature, they might listen to us, they might seem like they agree or they don't agree, or we don't know how they really feel, and they walk away and say, thank you very much. We don't know what effect we have on people. Because really, I had no idea that Ira Glass would ever do anything personally, let alone publicly. And my experience as an activist, because I want to tell you that one of my main themes as the head of United Poultry Concerns is how to be an effective animal rights activist. That you have to have confidence, that you have to believe in your cause, that you have to have passion, that you have to know your facts, and that you can never apologize and say things like, well, I know most people will never care about a chicken or a turkey, but I'm going to, we never should talk like that. We should never, ever apologize for those for whom we have elected to speak, for ourselves as their advocate, and for the cause that we have chosen to represent. And Ira Glass is just one example of my encounters with people over the years, all kinds of people. Like at the airport, if I'm wearing my Stick Up for Chickens button, see, it doesn't say go vegan, it just says Stick Up for Chickens. It's got a little cute little chick here that a student at the University of Maryland in 1989 drew for United Poultry Concerns when I started the organization in 1990, and this chicken has been with us ever since, this dear little chick. Well, if I'm at the airport, for example, and I'm wearing this button, it doesn't say go vegan. I'm not saying you shouldn't say that, but the thing is, if you say Stick Up for Chickens, people say, what does that mean? Then you get in a conversation. They say, Stick Up for Chickens, are you saying we shouldn't eat them? And sometimes I'm like, yeah, that's a start. That's where we start. And then I always get into a conversation with them, and one of the most interesting things is, when you're real friendly with people, but you're firm about what you're about, pretty soon people will start telling you how they're interested in becoming vegetarian, but they're not sure what to eat. Or they'll tell you, well, when I was growing up, I used to have a rooster, and he used to follow me everywhere, and I loved him. And what you find is when you have a positive attitude, and you are very forthright and friendly, but again, firm about what you're about, you elicit in people something that they hadn't even thought about maybe for years, or they didn't even know they cared. Suddenly you're involved in a discussion, and a positive, a progressive type of discussion. So one thing I am saying here for everybody who is listening, it is so important that we be strong for the animals, that we not apologize for saying go vegan, that we have to, as Martin Rowe was just saying, not think of ourselves as on the periphery, but in the center of the most important movement there is, because the vegan movement encompasses the whole global advocacy effort on behalf of social justice, on behalf of planetary health, and on behalf of the rights of each and every individual of every species to live as they have a right to do, to enjoy sunshine, fresh air, to enjoy movement, to not be incarcerated as the majority of farmed animals are at this very moment. I mean, some of us today are a little bit displeased with the cold, right? But we're outside. We had a choice to be here. We have sunlight and blue sky. And yet the majority of animals who people are eating are living in dark, filthy, polluted prisons. Down where I am located on the eastern shore of Virginia, the eastern shore of Maryland, and all of Delaware, at any given time, over 500 million chickens are in these long, 500-foot long, 2-foot football field long buildings. If you go into those houses, as I have done, you can't even breathe because of the ammonia fumes and all of the other toxic gases that are concentrated in these chicken houses, these turkey houses. The same for the pigs and the ducks. It's just that where we're located, how much more time? What? Okay. Where we're located, you can drive by 10 500-foot long chicken houses here. You go another way up the road, another 10 chicken houses. Millions and millions of them. Chickens come from the tropical forests of Southeast Asia and the rugged foothills of the Himalayan mountains. And despite all the horrible things we have done to these birds, that green, vibrant world of the tropical forest is in their genes. It's in their nature. They have ancestral memories of who they are and who they want to be. Since 1985, because I started taking in chickens 5 years before I started United Poultry Concerns, and there is nothing more touching or more positive proof that chickens have their essential nature in them, even if they never set foot on the earth before they arrived at our sanctuary. When they're let out of their cages, the first thing they want to do is to take what's called a dust bath, which is how chickens clean their body. It's like what a water bath is for us. And we know certain birds like sparrows, they like to take dust baths as well as water baths. Well, chickens clean themselves with the earth. They use their claws and their beaks and they clean themselves. And these chickens who have never set foot on the earth in their lives, who have never had a chance to clean themselves, that is their very first act. So they recognize the earth and what it means to them, even though they lived on wire or in filthy poop-filled coops their entire lives. So we want to remember how important it is that we create a world where all animals have a chance to enjoy a day like today. Because as much as we enjoy it, I can tell you, running a sanctuary all these decades, nobody enjoys the outdoors, the sunlight, the earth itself more than a chicken. So stick up for chickens, go vegan, get everyone else to join you. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen Davis. Yes, absolutely. An inexhaustible storehouse of knowledge about the prodigious fowl. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, I'm very excited about our next speaker. First of all, do we have anyone here from Pennsylvania?